Welcome in, everybody. Listen, if it's lagging, we apologize. We've been actually trying to fight this lag all morning. I don't know what's going on. I think I need to upgrade my box because we never had lag this bad. I do think it's on my computer, and maybe it's just us. I don't know if it's impacting you all or not. What's going on? Man.
Awesome. Hi, Maya.
Well, oh yeah, hello. I don't know, maybe I'm just running too much stuff. But we're running the same amount of stuff we were running last week.
Last time, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So welcome in to Sunday session. So glad to have you in here with us. It looks like it may be leveling out just a little bit, so that makes me a little happy. First of all, thank you for joining us for now our third week Sunday sessions. Already, right? Like this has been a blast. I hope you all have been getting something out of this. We're still experimenting with our setup and how to flow. So we've made a few changes today. But just to be out here. If you haven't already, please make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the alert notification bell. Consider joining our community, consider becoming a volunteer with our community. And as well, we have merch, and if I may say so myself, it's some of the dopest merchandise in the game, in the market. So check it out. We have this Keep Rising logo. Like it's dope. It's genius. It's genius. As far as announcements, I do, and like now I definitely feel like I'm in church. But that's kind of even a biased feeling because we act like church is the only place that does announcements, man. It is wonky often, right? Man.
Technology.
Ah, yes.
But we work with it.
We running with it. Yes, it's beautiful tone. It is beautiful. I might need to cut my phone off because I see that it's ding.
Alert.
Yep. But as far as announcements, if you haven't checked out last week's Sunday, do that. I think there's a lot of good info there. Yes, right. Just maybe. And in this week, Skeptic Haven with Apostasy and Mark Peralta on Tuesday. So
which is always fun to go on Skeptic Haven.
It is always fun to be on Skeptic Haven. I enjoy myself every time, and so I'm looking forward to doing that as well this time. And this week, just to kind of go ahead, and today is a little different, which we told you this week's conversation is making space make sense. And so the past two sessions we've done kind of interview style. I'm going to kind of give us a solid introduction here, and then we'll flow into conversation, if that makes sense. So if y'all bear with me for a little bit while I give the introduction for this one, just to kind of set a framework, and there I go again, being all trying to be academic, but just kind of set a framework for today's conversation. And I really am interested in what a lot of you have to say. So y'all bear with me. This is our third week into our introductory series, and of course we're calling this our Thesis of Secular Community, and we discuss some basics and some frameworks of building community without superstition based on information and ideas that we've been wrestling with and even experimenting with for the past 10 years. Oh yeah. Oh, I love it. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. It's the internet, man. Today, we're going to pick up that conversation by exploring the utilization of space in the facilitation of intentional community. So whether you're interested in joining us in our community, or experimenting with some community building of your own, this series of conversations should be immensely valuable for all of us. And if you know anyone who you feel may benefit from this type of conversation, let's go ahead and link them in so that we can all continue to grow together, right? So let's get started. Any endeavor in the cultivation of intentional community is an experiment with the sociological third place. And some of you may already be familiar with this idea, but if you're not, this is why I wanted to do this. In sociology, the third place refers to social surroundings that are separate from the two usual social environments, which are typically home and the workplace, right? So home is typically the first place, work is the second place. Third place for us so far tends to include churches, cafes, bars, clubs, community centers, public libraries, gyms, bookstores, stoops, going back to New York there, stoops, parks, theaters, opera houses, a whole bunch of things. Ray Oldenburg, in his book, The Great Good Place, which was published in 1989, if you're interested, argued that third places are important for civil society, democracy, civic engagement, and establishing feelings of a sense of place. Third places are anchors of community life and facilitate and foster broad, more creative interaction. In other words, your third place is where you relax in public, where you encounter familiar faces and make new acquaintances. Now, I know this is a lot of information, so babe, at any time you want to interject, feel free to interrupt me.
Yeah.
But also, third places offer stress release from everyday demands of both home and work. It provides the feeling of inclusiveness and belonging associated with participating in a group's social activities without the rigidity of policy or exclusiveness of club or organizational membership.
And that's a good thing I wanted to point out about the third place, because it's something you do regularly, right? But it's something that it's not an obligation. You don't feel that burden of obligation. You're not forced to go. It's something you kind of choose to enjoy on your own recognizance. So
yeah, I like that. Yeah. I like that. And just kind of variant forms of the concept include the community coffee house, which we've seen that kind of evolve even more, and the community living room, which is actually a concept that I'm very fascinated by. It's a term which has been adopted by several organizations to describe the model of cooperatively run third space, which includes commercial or non-commercial functions, with an emphasis on providing a free space for social interaction. I'm almost through with the bulk of this. But a church community fills this role for many people, including groups that focus on common interests and hobbies. Activities, events, and cell groups can build the connections that are necessary for authentic community, where individuals, sometimes professional and sometimes transgressive acts, are played out where people let their real selves kind of show.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that some people's second place, like where they work, is also their third place.
Yeah, that is right.
Yeah. Do you find a disconnect there? Is that a hindrance, or is that's kind of how?
Well, I think that kind of arrives in the absence of third places, people having third places they identify with. So, especially as people, speaking from the workplace, because we definitely do work third place type of stuff in our workplace at Broadpath, and so yes.
It's important, yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And again, I think as people are deconstructing, deconverting, they're looking for new third places, which does empower the workplace to kind of meet that need, and smart companies do that. And I forget kind of revealing the method behind the madness, but smart companies would do that for several reasons. One of the reasons is to create a healthier work environment, and so they'll capitalize on those people who are being either religiously or culturally ostracized, and create third spaces for those people to feel stronger at work. Yeah.
So that's good, because we don't have to look at it as having three different communities, finding a way to intertwine and intermingle.
Right.
Each of those. Right?
Yeah, it should definitely be diversity of spaces when you're dealing with the idea. Oh yeah.
Makes feel unwelcome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yes, absolutely. And that's actually going to be one of the points that we hit in this conversation. So now that we've kind of established this background for the importance of community and this idea of a third place, we've set aside this time today to discuss making space make sense with this in mind. So I want to start with digital presence, right? Which is how we're able to engage with our growing community now. It's digital presence. We almost everybody that's a part of this little community experience we're connecting with via YouTube, TikTok, social media. Yeah, it's definitely something interfering pretty badly here, and I don't know what it is. I don't like it. But I'm hoping it clears up soon. Maybe it's because I got Zillow pulled up. Let me close out Zillow.
The extra.
Allow all my extra tabs, and closing out tabs is hard for me.
It's like every tab you have, you need. It's like, I use this tab.
I use every single one of these tabs. And you know what? I notice it does it worse when I'm going through my notes. And so maybe, and I put you on the spot, but maybe we're gonna have you guide the conversation so I can close my notes out. Which means you're gonna have to give me my notes because I'm closing them out. So we're gonna try that on the spot. We're adjusting right here, live on the spot. I just closed my notes out. Did that make a difference? And I'll just close this out altogether.
It's still a little lag, but
okay. I actually think I know what the problem is. Because there's only one variable this week that's different than last week, and that's using the multiple.
Oh, the 2 months.
Yep, and it's this piece right here. So, all right, y'all bear with us. I'm about to make a technical change right here on the spot.
On the spot.
This is your monitor, right? Oh, this is about to be a nightmare. But yes, unplug this.
I can't see this.
Right, yeah. Yep.
Okay.
And then, I just messed something up even worse, so I don't know what it is, but plug that into the HDMI.
Plug this?
No, it's plugged.
Okay.
Yep. Perfect.
I'm slow. I'm worth waiting on
that. And then what we do want to unplug, everything is going to shift around a little bit, and that's absolutely fine because now it's going to shift. I am not your child. And I'd be like, you are absolutely right. Let me chill. Let me watch my phone.
With few programs,
Yes.
That's
I had to disconnect one of my other monitors, and I think that just make a difference.
I can't quite tell yet.
All right. I'm seeing it.
I got booted. Oh, okay. No, we're just switching. We're trying to.
I gotta reset my camera. Oh nope, you're okay. We just had to boot back here, and so
that's a little bit better.
Yeah, it seems like it's picking up a little bit, and I have to reset my camera. So I'm gonna let you talk about the other part of the conversation while I am resetting my camera.
Yeah, so we're easing into digital spaces, all right, and how to utilize digital tools for streaming sessions as we're doing here, facilitating discussions and hosting online groups. So we ensure your technology supportive and high quality digital experience. And when you have issues with that, we have to be flexible enough to adjust on the spot as we are doing now, right? The more technology we use, the more we have to work with it and incorporate it, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So this is why we would love to have and need volunteers. And I know we say this on like a lot of the streams, but having volunteers is important, or even, whether it's just a few hours of your time during the week, anything would help. All right, more hands at the table would help because it takes a village, right?
Right. Which just speaking of which, let me see here. Eeyore, put I wonder if doing this on Twitch would give us few problems, and just kind of speaking to what you were just saying, babe, about volunteers. That is definitely one of the reasons we need volunteers. I'm gonna say my age, and I'm saying it like I'm old, and I recognize I'm not old, but you know, with the way technology has accelerated, there are quite a few things that I am behind on. And Twitch is definitely one of those things. I'm just learning Discord. And, you know, that's another the reason why we really need help volunteers so that we actually can understand what the options are.
Yeah.
And which is a great thing to hit in this conversation about you know, your digital presence is you really want to be able to get out here and know what those options are. That's the one I had just put up. You really want to know what those options are. You really want to know what tools can I use? You know, where are people at? And like, I'm just now exploring Discord, so I'm absolutely bewildered by how many people are successfully building healthy community platforms that I had never heard of.
The thing is, these platforms are popping up.
Yes.
You know, by the day, by the time. So it's a lot we have to catch up on, but also making sure we stay progressive with that, because there are other options out there that are coming up.
Yeah, definitely. I can believe that. Hey, look, I need some of them over here on YouTube because there's been a lot. Luckily, they don't come into our live stuff too much. But Lord, on my shorts, they have a field day, which I'm not playing the victim. You know, I do poke the bear purposefully.
Poke a nerve.
Yeah, you know, definitely. That's the best way for people to think. Sometimes the best way for people to have a learning moment is for them to get an opportunity to make a fool of themselves and be able to look back on that opportunity and say, "Oh snap! I really did make a fool out of myself."
What can I learn from this?
Absolutely.
But the thing, when we're talking about digital spaces, that's the thing we saw heavily, like who was ready for the moment to use those was during COVID, right?
Oh yeah.
We saw some churches weren't able to shift or navigate as easily as others.
Absolutely. Like there were literally thousands of churches that had to close down during COVID because prior to COVID, they were so anti-technology. The technology is the devil. Man, see, well, that does make me feel better. Did I ever say my age?
No.
Oh, I'm 38. We're 38.
No, we're 37.
We're 37?
You turn 38 next month.
Next month. Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. I always ask her my age. I'm an old man, but you know what? I've always had an old soul. You know, I like the older people in movies. You know, not too old, but oh, so many jokes. Oh, especially considering the political state of this country.
Yeah.
But what that I was saying before that rabbit hit me?
We talked about churches and when COVID.
Oh yeah, churches were so anti-technology, you know, and so not all churches were. There were quite a few that were embracing technology, but the ones that were not embracing technology, they definitely felt that decline, and many of them never came back. Oh man. Wow. Oh, that is interesting. Well, we kind of have a indirect connection with the founder of Twitch, so maybe we'll ask him.
Yeah,
we can ask. Or one of the founders, which is one thing I do love about startup communities, which I think that's another thing that would be a good thing for us to learn from. It's not just church communities we can learn from; it's all communities that exist that we can learn from. But I think a big thing with startup communities is that they're always founded by teams, you know, or at least by far and large. Always is obviously a hyperbole or an exaggeration, but for the most part, they're started by teams, and I think that's really healthy for community.
Yeah, it is, because we complement each other.
Absolutely.
You know, the different skill sets, you come together in order to use them and meet that one goal or however many goals you're trying to meet.
Yeah.
In that sense. So.
And I think you get a better eye on the goal that way. You know, I'm pretty much averse to being the idea guy, even though I have a lot of great ideas, which you will hear about. Actually, I'm going to open that tab back up with you. But I do have a lot of great ideas, but I'm averse to being the idea guy. I prefer, in my mind, to get a better eye on the idea. I need more people who have thoughts on the idea. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, I know, at least from a lot of the things that I saw, things were so egocentric that it was, I have an idea, you should do my idea, or you're rejecting me.
Yeah.
When in my mind, the kind of purpose of doing these things, the purpose of your idea is not to feed your ego, but it's to contribute to whatever you're trying to contribute to. It's to build whatever you're trying,
and make it even better.
Exactly. And so then the goal is, I'm not looking for an idea to have that I can take credit for. It's we are looking to develop an idea into a plan that will actually work for the outcomes that we're looking for.
Exactly.
That
makes sense.
And I know that was another rabbit, but I think that was a good one. I think that was a good one.
And so touching on churches and navigating COVID and having to switch from on site for many and getting
or off site and switch just online
to online, right? There are some questions to consider with that, right? Just general with your community. What is your community's digital reality?
Well, that's more of a question of not necessarily dealing with the churches and COVID. It's you determining. Not even in general, specifically. Whatever, for those of you who are interested in building community, what are you going to make your community reality? So, will your community be analog, digital, virtual, or some hybrid? And really, the only thing we're doing here with this type of conversations is giving you some questions to consider to help you zero in on what your community looks like. Because I've seen people waste digital community trying to get to physical community, And so you had done an excellent job building a digital community where people were connecting, whether it be on a social media platform, but you didn't structure it, you didn't build anything into it because you thought, well, this is just the precursor to having to have a physical space, because physical space is the only way to do community. And that's one thing that we were able to learn from COVID, but there were several people who learned that lesson 10 to 20 years ahead, but yeah, so you can wrestle with that ahead of time, to start figuring out what are the possibilities. We could be an analog community, which means we're connected in real time, in real space. We see each other weekly at some physical place, or you can create digital communities where it's like we meet on Discord, or we meet on, absolutely. Now that is true. Now, and that is definitely going to bring us back to another spot too. Or you can create digital community where you're online, your social media platforms, your Discord, your Twitch, your this, or you can do virtual community, which wasn't really an option up until the past few years, where you can meet with people in VR or even AR types of environments.
And that opens decreases the issue of location.
Absolutely.
And accessibility.
Absolutely. Yeah. It definitely gives some advantages, some extreme advantages there. Which is the one I prefer, you take the hybrid approach. Do all of the above. And that's one of the things that I definitely saw a lot of the churches starting to do. The ones who survived the pandemic. They took those hybrid approaches of just saying, okay, we'll make experiences available for people to come off campus, for people to come on campus, for people to experience online, and then start. Well, what are some other things that people may want to do?
Yeah, and that's good, because some honestly was saying, oh, I'd rather just do the virtual or watch virtually, and some like, no, I want to come back on site, and some like the flexibility of both.
Yep.
So,
and I think that's good, because it's also about honoring people's preferences in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that's a goal.
Yes, definitely. Actually, we're that's another conversation. But we're building an app to help people critically think, and we are building VR and AR into it. Space. Yeah.
Might work, yeah.
It's absolutely, and I think that's the reason why I definitely am a fan of the hybrid approach. And it's good. Yep.
We did.
The one about making sure that we prioritize physical space. Absolutely, yes. But yeah, I think it's great to take the hybrid approach. Because I think one of the places that churches really messed up at, in my humble opinion, is creating this atmosphere where you have to come here, and if you don't come here,
Yeah,
something is wrong with
people
you.
would say,
Yes.
you know, like, that would be a point to make. Like they will have a virtual experience or a digital experience, but they will encourage people, if you're not coming outside, you're not getting the real.
If you're not in the building, you're not
Yeah.
getting the real deal.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think that creates some tension in itself.
Well, I think the problem with anything like that is it ignores the complexities of people, and that people do have different preferences. They have different priorities. They have different lives. They have different ways to relate. Right. That is quite a distance. Man, wow. Oh, that's dope. That is dope. 3,000 miles away, right?
Far, yeah.
Not too far for VR, not too far for AR, but if you had to walk to these conversations every Sunday or drive even, it would be hassle. And there's some people who do that. I know people who drive like 1,000 miles to go to church, or fly rather to go to church, and I'm just like, I think you may have missed the point of this.
Yeah, it was interesting with the VR AR. There's some people who's already experienced offering that experience with their children's ministries.
Oh yeah,
with the different groups.
Well, more so, what they're doing more so the digital space with which I thought was really neat. There's a lot of churches who've incorporated Minecraft
Like
and
the
Roblox to help their global community of children create, which I think was a positive step in the right direction. But those churches, of course, took a lot of flack, because then it's like, oh no, now they're going to be exposed to other children, who don't believe what they believe, and who wants that?
And not focus on the main thing.
Focus on the main thing, and that's, I did find that churches had a hard time figuring out what the hell the main thing was, Oh man.
Online, yeah.
Definitely faster, for sure. A lot faster in a lot of ways. Like right now, we're talking to people from all over, having a conversation with people at different time zones. For some people, it's night for. So it definitely gives you a benefit. And then and I think it even right. We need music. We do need the music. But I think I think our online communities, when we're building them, and especially if we're intentional and serious about them, are going to empower us to build stronger physical communities as well. And that eventually our online connections become an extension of our real world connections, and not separated from.
Not separated, exactly.
Yeah.
That's needed. And so we talked about having that presence. Now, can you talk about some types of digital experience, like different types?
Okay. So and this is for everybody trying to do, for those what you're experiencing with our community. Indonesia, wow. I did not know that, Tima. Wow. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. So fix me.
Welcome.
And that is absolutely important, Eeyore. That is absolutely important. And speaking of which, I'm going to deviate from the notes a little bit here, for what Eeyore just said. Oh yay! We're glad you made it. We're glad you made it across the island of the day before. Yes. Put Eeyore's comment back up for me. It says, I don't know. I guess I'd just like to see more groups like this in whatever areas I'm living in, because I struggle to find people interested in anything I'm into, in person, and that is a real struggle. And what I believe, or what I think rather, can happen as we build strong online community, we can start mapping out where we are. And as we start seeing, hubs of where we're growing in interest, those can be the places that are the easiest. Yeah, where we
Yeah.
get. But the biggest thing is, but you don't have to wait for that, because it can be more of a middle out approach. I think so many things in life we try to take a top down approach, bottom up approach, or in approach. And I say, middle out approach. Let's just do everything that makes sense to do, and all the variables will kind of impact each other. And so while we're also building online community, I'd say take that inspiration and that strength and that and just the curiosity that you're getting from these conversations and conversations like these, and start building meetup groups in your local area. Like I know in my city they do something at Dakota's, a coffee shop, but no one ever shows up to it for the most part. It's just one or two people, and there's a lot of people in that little group. It wasn't something we started. It was something we just found out about after kind of coming out of the closet. But what often happens with those local groups is it starts as an idea and never develops into a plan, and then never develops into an actual framework.
It reminds me of that platform called Meetup. If you go on there, you can kind of find those of the group.
Absolutely. I got it up. I beat you to it. Yeah.
You're in Wisconsin.
It's fun. Yep. Wow. And so that's really one of the things. Oh yeah. Well, see, in like in a lot of European countries, bars are not separated from churches. Yeah, like it's that's Americans are petty and prudish, I don't know what it is, but no, that is something. That's one of the things that I would definitely like to see spark from these conversations, is that people start building locally, and that people start meeting with other people locally, and there are social impact reasons which we'll dive into at the end of this conversation. But it's stuff that yours, and that's what my inbox is filled with. That's what my YouTube comments are filled with. That's what my text messages are filled with. Is people who are saying, I can't find people around me. And yes, we can socialize on the internet, and man, it's amazing. I absolutely enjoy it. And VR has given us even more capacity, and AR has given us even more capacity. That human touch, having someone hug you and mean it, and not be, you know what I'm saying, like that means something. That means something, or at least it means something now.
Be able to connect.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
It'll come to
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's man. Oh yes, where everybody knows your name. Yeah. Oh, who knows what that's from? Wow. Yeah. Wow.
And that's the thing. Like, we have to make better ways to communicate, make it easier to connect.
Yeah.
Because it seems like some groups it's hard to even connect or get in touch with when you meet, how you meet. The consistency isn't always there.
Well, and I think that's been part of the problem, is that we've been expecting it to be coincidental as opposed to intentional. That was Cheers. It was Cheers, which is very appropriate for this. Why? Because Cheers it explored this idea of the third place. Ooh,
oh wow,
that's okay. I want to say hilarious, but I don't know if I should.
10K in the mountains.
Wow, it's a silly place. Wow, that's hilarious. I'll be in California in a few months, so I'll get to check out something. Next month. Oh, I meant to say a few weeks. Okay, yeah, that's right. That's right. A few weeks I'll be in. Yikes. Okay, which we'll talk about that more too. So, as far as the experience is, you can do what I've seen is simulcast, then the digital option, and then all digital. And so simulcast, which you'll notice a lot of churches are doing that now, which that's also helpful. Now, believe it or not, I plan on, especially with the group therapy conversations that we do, I plan on taking full advantage. I plan on taking full advantage of doing the multicast stuff to help do both local and online, and then use the online experience to connect the local group.
That's the only feel like everybody's in that same experience.
Yes. What's like everybody's getting that similar experience and able to participate in the conversation in real time. Like one of the things that is faux show. I think that sounds a lot like Alabama right there. Yeah. Booze and football. Yeah, that's it. Which meant I actually really wish they would probably worship booze and football more than they worship God in this state. It would probably help.
Yeah.
It would probably help. Oh man. But yeah, because even these conversations have given me something different to think about that I've not thought about before. Even back when I was a pastor, and that is it's challenged the way I initially viewed the art of public communication. Because as a pastor, which is ultimately a public speaker, or public speaking is a major part of the position, rather. As a pastor, you stand on a stage and you lecture, but those people are not actually able to engage with you in real time. And so, but now actually because of technology, those people could literally be texting stuff that's popping up on the screens. And I actually think for me, and again, because, I got all these things going on in my head, stuff like that might actually help me even more. Yes. It's very important. It's very important. And as of now, there may be a substitute for that in a few years, but as of now, there is no substitute for human touch. And it's mainly because that touch it's always deeper than the feeling itself. It's everything that's being conveyed in that moment.
I wonder if that why the laying of hands.
Oh yeah, laying on of hands. That's so funny. You feel like power. That's funny. Which and we're gonna hit that a little bit more. What's up, Joe? Mr. Difficult is in the building. Man. Dang. Okay. Yeah. I'm in here. So no. Well, I was thinking because I know we're gonna hit this. We're gonna hit some more idea about the physical aspect in a few. So multicast is basically hybrid, which is basically where people can participate in small groups online, individuals online, in big groups online, or then come and be on your main campus. It's not. You don't want to be space. You want to maximize space in every aspect of the word. And then, or you can just do community that has a digital option, right? So we're physical community, but you can tune in online if you want to, type of thing. Which at that moment, I think the concern there, or I don't want to say concern, but the thing you'd want to be careful of is making sure you're not just becoming, and this is one thing I'm very mindful of now with even what we're doing on YouTube. This is why we're hosting these type of conversations on Sundays, is just to make sure that you don't become entertainment. Now, if that's your vision, that's fine. If the mission is to just provide good entertainment, because believe it or not, that's a community need too. Right? Well, no, I definitely wasn't talking about the physical aspect, but the emotions that we typically get from that. We are an evolutionary species, so 100 years ago, people died from shock. We don't do that anymore. So there are ways that we typically evolve. So this idea that humans are static is not one that I can buy into. So there are things that we need today that we may absolutely not need tomorrow, and that's a scary thought for a lot of people, but it's not for me. There were things we needed 50,000 years ago as a species that we do not need today. I'm kind of happy for that. And so, and then there's or you can just do all digital, which we did mention as well.
All right. So the digital experience, who are they designed for?
That's something good to hit. Yes.
And so the digital experience is, the first obvious one is those who can't attend, right?
Yes.
We have some people who work or choose to work or have to work, whatever the case may be.
Yep.
And they need to have another option. or health reasons. There's
Yes.
so many variables that come into play with that.
Well, I was just going to say the same thing. You got health reasons. You have people who can't leave their homes for all different types of reasons.
Yeah.
Not even health reasons. You have legal reasons. You have people who can't leave their homes for legal reasons. House arrest is the thing.
That is a good point. And then you have those who are uncomfortable with crowds, which you always talked about.
Yes.
Anyway, being in a bunch of crowds, and I'm like, hey, I used to be one. I didn't mind the crowds, but
right. And I'll pull. I got it up. Yep. And that's the concern. The problem is those things don't make us human. When we buy into that type of ideology, you dehumanize the people who don't need those things. So there are people who are A-okay not being around crowds, which are the people we're kind of addressing now. There are people who don't like to be hugged, and it has nothing to do with a traumatic past.
Because I'm a hugger. Like, if you come to me, I'm going to hug you. I'm going to be positive, smiling. And then you have some who just, they prefer that. So, yeah, I definitely ran into that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now my screen just did this thing again. I hate when it does this. I'm going to have to wait till that go away before I can even interact over here. Get off of here. Yeah. All right. So you do want to be careful with that. And everything.
With this.
Yes, for sure. But yeah, with that, you just want to be careful with that, because that stems from the idea that we were created and not evolved. And then that's the thing that I like us to be very careful with, because we can easily think that the things we need, and this is why I like having several ideas at the table, we can easily think the things that we need are things that everybody need. And then the moment we do that, we create these labels that say, well, people who don't need these things or feel that they don't need these things, they're either unhuman or they're damaged somehow.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's precisely it. That's precisely it. It's definitely there. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I had it because I know you were notes, and so I just decided to kind of do this. Yes, that is good. That is good. And so those are the nuances. And remember, the communities that you build or that you're a part of, because the good news is we don't want to be a part of just one, can meet a variety of needs.
And that's true. Because, one of the groups I was in, there's some people who think, no, you're in this group, you have to stay in this group and only this group.
Yes.
And so you do have those issues there.
Yes.
So you don't have to be tied to one, and you're not, because we're supposed to be building and connecting with communities, so that even like, oh, you're over there, so you got to stay over there.
Yes.
You have to kind of work on that.
We definitely.
All right, and so you have those who can't come, those who are uncomfortable with crowds, but you also have those who just prefer the digital experience,
yep,
right?
You do have those.
They have the option to attend. They're not afraid of crowds, but they just prefer to go digitally, right?
Oh, yeah.
All right, so we will go into virtual community spaces.
I agree with that. I definitely like having. Well, I like having intentional. I like having purposeful relationships. So, and some of the people who with me would tell you, because I've had to let them know, and they didn't always like it when I started doing it. But like, I'm not a fan of small talk. I'm one of those people who believe that there are a lot of important things to talk about when you're in a relationship with people, and so to talk about those things. And it's because I really don't like superficial relationships, and I realized only after becoming a pastor and being part of the mega church scene that I really am not a big fan of crowds. I'm not a fan of being in crowds. I've had a lot of issues that I've had to work through or kind of force myself to adopt without actually processing my issues. And just come on this side has allowed me to do that. And in many ways has given me more respect for other people as well. To realize, like, yeah, we really don't all have to identify with things the same way.
And that's what I do like about you. You do practice it and you voice it. Like, everybody don't have to be me.
Right.
But
Yeah. No.
I'm gonna practice what I preach.
Yeah. I can't practice what everybody else
Yeah.
preach, but I will practice what I preach.
And giving people that space to be them and how they operate.
Yes.
Yep.
I know it, right? It's clicky and snappy. I hate that.
Yeah.
That makes me so mad because this is such good conversation. But it also makes me very happy to see how many people are like bearing through it. That's like
It's
beautiful to me.
engaging.
Yes.
Appreciate it. All right. So with that being said, virtual community spaces gives people an option to interact, to share, and participate in discussion activity as we're doing here, right?
Yep.
And so the online virtual communities constructed with modern games share the same as digital third places. And we get into one of the more prominent features of these communities is the social equalizing aspect.
Yes.
So I do like that.
And that's something that I don't think it's something I didn't even think about until I started kind of replaying with this, because of course, you know, we definitely made plans for physical and for digital, but virtual I kind of felt was so far off. So I really hadn't kind of thought about how it helps in that way. But let me see. Let me read this. Here it is. The online virtual communities constructed with modern games share the same characteristics as traditional third places. One of the more prominent features of these communities is the social equalizing aspect. These games allow users to interact through their in-game character or avatar, which serves as a medium for the player and removes the player's social identifiers. Avatars often interact via built-in text chat systems, allowing users to communicate without revealing their identity through their voice. Therefore, any type of social identification is dependent upon the avatar, not the actual player.
I love that point.
That is definitely a benefit that I've never thought about, and so even when we're doing with Mastermind, it's making me like, ooh, I got to go back to that. But that's something really cool.
And that's getting into safety.
Safety, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and then just sometimes making it easier. And again, these aren't one right. I know it's disappointing. These aren't one size fits all solutions, but it's more of an idea of knowing what your options are and then kind of using all of them to the best of your ability.
Yeah.
And so just kind of with that, we'll wrap up the virtual space part with just social media engagement. You know, the biggest thing, especially as your community gets an idea or an identity, you kind of attach a name to it, you attach a brand to it, you hone in on your culture, mission, values, and stuff. When you start creating your social media stuff, make sure to think engage versus advertise. To actually spend more time trying to engage, that community and the people who will benefit from that community.
And that's good because you try to instill that in the group you started.
Yep. Oh yes. Oh yes. Yes.
Everything being advertised, and actually engage with the people who agree to be in this group and interact with us.
Yeah. What Mark is referencing is years ago I started a small organization for pastors, and it grew to about over 400 pastors, and we built community, and we used digital media, social media for that. But one of the problems I noticed is that the pastors just wanted to a lot of them just wanted to advertise their services. I think out of the 450 pastors that were in P3, only 12 of them actually, and 12 is a random number, only about a handful of them actually built relationship with other pastors there and was able to benefit from those relationships because they were so hell-bent on advertising as opposed to engaging, which happens because that was, I didn't just see that with pastors, because when you said with the group you started, I thought about the mastermind group that we had.
Oh, that's true.
Because I was telling them the same thing, like, hey, you're so busy, and they weren't pastors, they were entrepreneurs, but like, you're so busy advertising your products that you're not engaging with the people you claim to be making these products for. So you're not even learning what they actually want from the product. So you're really not even making it for them. What you're doing is, I'm not a fan of hustle culture. I know everybody don't mean that when they use the word hustle, but I'm not a fan of hustle culture, which is basically when you're in business to make money. That's your whole goal. When you get people like that, they do not pay attention to the quality of their service, the quality of their products, because they're not concerned with any of that. They're only in it to make money. You're just trying to get money from your pocket to my pocket. That's not good business.
You don't get the best outcome.
You don't get the best outcome. No. You're not even putting yourself in position to have competitive advantage in business by not engaging with the people that you're trying to sell to. It's crazy. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get that. Yeah, but the point is, engage versus advertising. You know.
Okay, so we have the virtual spaces, and we also have getting to the physical space.
Let's talk about physical space, right? Because this is important. Now, and again, this is what I kept saying. We were definitely going to get to this because this is definitely important to me. Eeyore, I am a lot like you in this sense. Even though I don't like crowds, I need personal relationship, and I value physical personal relationship. If possible, establish a physical space that is welcoming, versatile, welcoming and versatile for various activities. And again, here the idea would be think assemble versus gather. You know, and I think in that way you'll get more.
I think of that message, assembly required.
Assembly required. And again, but you know that. Thank you for hitting that, because that kind of takes me back to a right trail I was going to hit. So the reason why some secular communities have a hard time actually building on community is because they're gathering. They're not finding ways to assemble. You know, I understand. I understand. I wish we could fix it, but yeah, it's really learning how to engage in those ways. Yep. Ooh, interwebs. I know it. I know it. But yeah, so what will you use space for? And notice all we're really doing here is unpacking some helpful questions that'll help you understand what our process has been, and perhaps help spark some ideas for your own. So it's like, what do you want to do with this safe place that you're cultivating? And so our overarching theme, as we kind of shared last week, is progress. That's it. We're progressive thinking, people-centric, and life-affirming. So our utilization of space should align with that, right? So for us, progress equals growth and development. And so that's as a community, you want to make sure your space. How does your space align for creating, growth and development opportunities for the community? How does it align for creating growth and development opportunities for individuals? And when you think about that on a personal level, like how does it help people emotionally? How does it help people relationally? How can you use your space to help people academically, financially? How maybe you can hold financial courses, financial workshops, seminars. Maybe you can do social workshops where you're exposing different things that are happening right in your community, and then also you can also think professionally. How you can help people with career training and development. How you can help people get entrepreneurial resources and workshops. And then, of course, as we've talked throughout both of the last two sessions, also as groups, you have your interest groups and your service-based groups, however you decide to define them. Sup, peeps?
Have you found, is there any example of someone doing this pretty well?
Oh, there's a plethora of examples. I don't think we live in a world where everybody's getting it wrong. Yeah. And so, and again, that's why the whole setup of this is to honestly help people just start asking the questions, or even pondering the questions that would lead to building things. I think Disney World is an example. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Community
You get
is,
that individual
yeah.
community, the groups, yeah.
Colleges are examples.
Yeah.
There are churches who do this exceptionally well. I think we just have to look for it. We have to look for it.
And that main goal is to use the space to help people maximize their living. Oh,
Ooh, lucky you.
yeah.
And we'll talk a little bit more about Disney in a few, as a matter of fact. But yeah, our goal is to find a way to use space to help people maximize their living. That's our goal. Now, that may not be your goal, but that's definitely our goal. We want to use physical space, but even for us, even virtual space. We want to make sure we're using our space to help people maximize their living in whatever ways that may evolve to be. Let's see here. One of the ways that urban churches are rising while fundamental churches are declining is because of the campus experience, right? And what sets these churches apart are a few things. A more social-centric and semi-inclusive message, though many times still ill-informed, I get it. But it's typically because the pastor is not always a good student. That's why he's still a pastor. Okay, that was a joke. I'll leave that one alone. But typically what these churches do, and this is something we can learn from these churches, but to be honest, you don't have to learn it from these churches. You can learn it from colleges that are exceptional at their hospitality. And you can also learn it from any 5-star, level organization. But the churches that I've worked with that I mean, to this day, I admire the way they lasered in on this. They lasered in on intentional hospitality. They were always the ones I worked with and helped were always over the top with experimenting with ways to ensure that visitors and members felt comfortable.
And that's good because you also see it in hotels.
Absolutely.
Well,
The good ones.
in the great hotels, they're gonna make from the moment you come in to the moment you're leaving.
You're leaving.
A great experience.
It's just a 5-star treatment, and I think a lot of times because people, when churches start doing this, they fought it because it wasn't like we were just doing it to some people. It wasn't like, oh, this is what we're going to do to the big givers. The big givers get this treatment, but it was just we're going to approach everybody like this, and it was like, well, why would you do this? Because the idea was 5 stars supposed to be exclusively reserved to people who could afford that type of treatment, as opposed to realizing that the 5-star wasn't necessarily about, oh, these people can afford this. It was the people creating that approach thinking about we're going to pay attention to these. Now, because those people were motivated by money, we're paying attention to them because they can pay us and give us good tips and make us a survivable business, and in the same ways that many waitresses do, and in the same way that many waiters do. But it really becomes a more idea of like just what makes people feel good, what makes people feel accepted, what makes people feel celebrated. And again, kind of like we mentioned earlier, it is different for many people. So it's not something you can just plug and play with. It's something you have to intentionally pay attention to.
And that's good because it's something called the first touch, or that first interaction, first appearance, first meeting is very important.
It is very important,
right?
Absolutely. So I'm actually I'm fairly confident that within the next 10 to 15 years, many of these churches will progress their way right on off some of their superstitions, because many of them have already separated from the dogma, albeit a little later, but separated from the dogma in favor of what they may think, well, this might be better for people. But at the point, hospitality is the idea that how you receive others sets the tone for how they engage with your community. At its core, extraordinary hospitality focuses on making others feel welcome, comfortable, and valued. It involves extending warmth, kindness, and generosity towards guests, visitors, or even strangers, creating an environment that fosters genuine human connection and a sense of belonging. True hospitality extends beyond the confines of professional settings like hotels or restaurants. And again, I think this is one of the weak points of some some communities. We go to some communities is that we haven't been intentional about the hospitality aspect.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. And we watch some online ourselves, digitally, and you can still kind of see the disconnect there.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah.
Feeling warm or welcome, or even the engagement isn't always there.
Well, because I think there's this idea that it's going to happen organically, and will happen organically, but it's going to need some seed. It's going to need some structure. It's going to need some room. And so it's always it's a really good idea to create those frameworks for things.
And so that hospitality experience is a complete journey guests have when interacting with a hospitality establishment. It covers every touch point from first contact to last, and involves atmosphere, service quality, and emotional connection throughout the entire encounter. And that's just being intentional there.
Absolutely.
Start to finish, really.
Absolutely. Maybe it's why homemade cookies somehow always taste better, or taste better than factory made. Yes, it is that touch with it. You relate to it. It looks like it's getting worse, man. I hate it. Really, you relate to it. But yeah, absolutely. I love that. And
I think it's also that when people hear like, "Oh, this was homemade," like they just got the food eating it, and when they hear, "Oh, this was homemade," it's that extra feeling of somebody took time.
Well, yeah, it's the person who did this was thinking about me.
Yeah.
The person who made Nestle Toll House, they didn't think about me. They don't know me.
How many production can we get?
Right? Yeah, get as many of these out as we can. It's still some good cookies, but it's something about knowing that this cookie was made for me.
Yeah.
It's something about knowing that this person is relating to me that is immensely powerful to us. It is to me for sure. And that kind of goes to what you the next point kind of goes to what you were saying earlier about how that the hospitality experience begins with the first point of contact. Whether it's an online reservation, a phone call, or stepping into a physical space, the establishment ambience, design, and atmosphere plays a crucial role in setting the tone, creating a welcome environment. From there, the interactions with staff members, the levels of personalized attention, and the quality of service contribute to shaping the overall experience.
That made me think of one pastor you talk about who, when he was building the new church, he even was so intentional about the colors that was in the sanctuary. Which is the same for like schools and some companies are intentional about what colors are people seeing on our logo or when they step into our spaces. So
it's because there's a lot of color psychology out there. And it's the idea of what do these colors make people feel? How do people identify with these colors? It's a big field of study in marketing for sure. And the pastor you're thinking about, I know he wanted his auditorium to be yellow when he built the first one, and he wanted it to be yellow because in his mind, it's like, well, yellow inspires learning, it inspires education. And he was just that intentional with thinking through things, and I think that's a great type of eyesight to bring. Now, whether I agree with color psychology or not is a whole nother other thing. But no, it is really being mindful of how people are impacted by things. That this will definitely help you, I think, get an upper hand in building community that's actually effective. And again, at the end of this day, we probably could have summed up all three of these sessions by saying, pay attention to people.
Pay attention to people. And it's good because digital, you have to think about font. People being able to read what's on the screen. People being able to see, just like all those intricate things play a role.
Absolutely. And just being mindful, there's nothing we can tell you that's going to be directly, correlatable. That's not right. But that's going to be that you're going to be able to nothing we're going to be able to tell you is going to be plug and play, which I think is one of the biggest problems in church community. It was just like, tell me what to do.
Yeah.
You know, and the best thing I can say is take a, you know, does it work on the line? That's a good point. You know, I can't see your Lieutenant Dan. You know, so it's like, yeah. You know, so the biggest point in all of this stuff is you pay attention to the people you desire to serve, the people you desire to kind of exist for, and I do want to use those words loosely there, exist for. But the people you're in it to help, you want to pay attention to them and be intentional about that paying attention. A meaningful hospitality experience aims to create lasting impressions beyond the visit, leaving cherished memories that inspire guests to return and recommend the establishment to others. Now, and I recommend it, like, right? Does anybody want? If nobody's recommending your community, that means the people who are part of your community don't think your community is recommendable,
and that's something good.
Or they think it's so safe that they don't want nobody else in it.
Yeah, I think that's something good that Apple does. When I work for them, after every interaction, would we rate the customers?
Oh, yeah,
Promote,
yes.
You know, would you recommend this? That's something that we can employ in everything that we do as well.
Absolutely. Well, I am definitely a fan of being more data driven. Now, the challenge with that is there are plenty of people who are averse to being data driven for whatever reasons, and I let them have that. Some people can make better decisions without it, I guess, and we'll see. I won't undermine them, but I am definitely a fan of being data driven. Now, I will say, surveys in the context of community, you got to be very strategic with those. You know, that's like, think about people in America don't even fill out the census. They don't. You know, it's just a survey, and it's a survey help them, you know, I guess, you know, and they don't like on it.
Yeah.
So it really go. You got to find those ways to pay attention. There are no easy way outs. But for those of you who are interested in creating, you know, as you're building your community, if you're interested in majoring in hospitality, I do have a link here, and if you would share that link in the chat with them. And that's nothing. It's nothing like super duper special. It's just a hospitality blog that talks about some things and exceeding that. So if that's something you want to incorporate in the type of community you're building, then that's a great resource. Thank you, darling. And y'all can copy and paste that. And then this is a good one. Pick some hospitality things to experiment with, and survey people, see how they respond, or just have conversations with them. You know, so like some examples of some things that I've seen, not just in churches, but whether it be churches, corporations, people who are really focused on building community. The ones that I see are either Disney, is a Disney theme, which is high touch, a universal type of theme, which is kind of tech social, a rehab/therapy type of theme, which is just deeply personal. A university type of theme, which I just spirit week, you know, or casino, which is just like, hey, forget what time it is, let's get lost in the festivities. But that's a good, healthy place when you start thinking about how to utilize your space and what you want to do with your physical community space, because it's more than just having a place where we all come together. What do we do when we get there, and what's the culture of us doing? Like, how do we want to be in? And this plays into that hospitality thing. And so the high touch, that Disney type thing, that means celebrating every person who steps foot on campus, reminding them of the beauty of their humanity, appreciating them for being present and being genuinely interested and invested in what they desire to receive from the community, which I love that approach. I'm like, to this day, if I will go to churches who have that approach, if I just leave right after just after being welcomed, I'd come in to be hugged by everybody. Just, oh, thank you, this is incredible. Oh, because they got signs, we're glad you're here. Oh, thank you. And then I turn back around and it's like, I'll be back next week for the treatment.
Really have high touch. They're all over in the parking lot. They don't even wait till you get to the door.
Parking lot, man. Which I love, because and that's why I say that's Disney. That is definitely high touch. They're in the parking lot. They're in the foyer. Hell, they might even be in the bathroom. You need a peppermint? You need some lotion? Probably not lotion. I mean, there is lotion in the bathroom, but there's some connotations that can get attached to that. But you can be over the top. You can say, oh, that's how, when people pull up for our experiences, we want them to feel like all of this is for them. There's also universal potential, which I see a lot of churches do that, where it's not necessarily where people everywhere all in your face, because sometimes that's not attractive for some people. So that's why there's more than one community. There has to be diversity of how we apply. There is the doorbell. There has to be diversity of how we do these things. Everybody is saying everybody doesn't like the same thing. Some people are absolutely weirded out by hugs. Some people are loud noise. Yep. Everybody don't want you to be excited to see them.
That's true. Yeah. So having screens up where you just sometimes you're seeing a old was it some people call worship service, but
well, not the old ones. What you want is you want screens everywhere showing what's happening.
What's happening on the inside.
What's happening on the inside. Right. Absolutely. So and that's more like the universal tech experience. Yeah. And then that other kind of thing that we mentioned is rehab or therapy, which is deeply personal. And you have to kind of explore the culture of the community you're building or engaging. But there are communities that we want to lean on each other, want to support each other. But the way we lean and support is different. And so I have seen communities kind of take that low touch, that deeply personal view, where it's low touch experience to minimize triggers or conflict, with the focus on group conversations and creating group safety. And so for those, for people, if that's kind of your stilo, or if the target group that you're for is going to kind of have those type of needs, you want to be mindful of that. And so maybe your welcoming, your hospitality experience isn't going to be an over-the-top experience. It's going to be more discreet. It's going to be more, I hate to use the word respectful, but but just kind of respectful of people's personal boundaries until you're in your group meeting, your type of therapeutic place where you actually have that time to learn from each other. And again, I'm probably going to say the same thing at the end of all of these. My approach is the hybrid approach. I prefer to just do all of them, and just don't. In my mind, it's just like, don't give yourself a reason not to pay attention to people. And so even if your community's culture is over the top, if someone's walking in, you can kind of pay attention to those social cues. Give yourself permission not to assume what they want from you, what they expect from you, and give yourself permission to ask and say, hey, we normally very over the top. Before I come in and hug you, is that something you're okay with? And then maybe don't dehumanize them if they say no.
Some people thank you for asking.
Absolutely. With things like to university is another type of thing that you could use for hospitality and community building, which is like Strict Week. And the whole idea is we're changing the world together. And so you're just happy that there's another world changer, that's joining there.
Yeah. In Spirit Week, we even see that sometimes, not in schools, universities, but also in the workplace.
Yeah.
We do have some where everybody come wearing the same shirt on Fridays or whatever day, holidays. You may have, let's have our workspace dressed up, different things like that. Our job does that
all the time.
Yeah.
But see, and I like the idea of that approach, because when you're thinking about the universities aren't the campuses that are put that on for colleges and stuff. They're not doing that because you believe what we believe. They're not even doing that because you're studying what we study.
Yeah.
They're not doing that because you're learning what we're learning. It's simply you're a part of the community that we're a part of, and you align with these values that we have, whatever they happen to be. And so, and then lastly, the casino theme, and really, if your hospitality stuff is a casino thing, that just basically means it's activity-based. It's activity-based. You want people to be able to come in and get involved and kind of get lost in themselves.
It seems more very freeing. You just do want, you spread out.
Yeah.
You're still there with a bunch of people, but you don't necessarily have a specific.
You don't
place to
feel
go.
locked into
Yeah.
a flow. You don't feel like
Right.
if I'm not in the main sanctuary, someone's gonna ask me what I'm
Yeah.
doing in the hallway, like I'm a kid who needs a
Yes.
hall pass.
You gotta wait for permission to get up, go to the bathroom, all
Right.
that, you know.
All right. So now we can segue to one of my favorite topics, and that's outreach and social impact. Man.
So we have one thing, community service,
Mhm.
which is big because there's so many ways we can get involved in the community, but organized community service projects, initiatives that align with your values, helping to build bonds and improve local communities, right?
Yep. And in my mind, like that's the purpose. Like that's kind of the point of building community in the first place.
Yeah.
Is being able to improve, your local communities. That's why physical space is important to me, is because you want to be able to take what you're doing in your virtual spaces and let it have an impact on your physical communities, and you also want to help to build bonds. And so I'll let you tackle that next part there. That's good info.
Yeah, really. One of the things to think about is the problem. What's the problem? And so we get into people largely disconnected from and disappointed in the social institutions that serve them, right?
Yep.
So that's one of the big problems. Then other vital social systems and structures are crashing in underserved communities. Which, oh man, and this you can see this no matter where you are, in my experience, right?
Yep.
You also have the problems of scams, schemes, and superstitions have high correlation with low rates of education and high rates of poverty. And so these are some of the things that community service can help to solve, right?
No, because these are definitely the problems, and I think an easy way of saying that is this stuff isn't working. The way things are supposed to be. For those of you who've heard my story, a major part of me departing, from the pulpit was realizing that, hey, the thing that we're saying this does, it's not doing. The reason that I started doing this is because that's what I wanted to do. I became a pastor because I believe that this helps people. I believe that this makes the world a better place. And then I'm looking around, I'm like, wait a minute, this isn't doing that. And for me, it started with, at first, the Black church, as I've experienced, is not a helpful institution. It has a lot of propaganda attached to it, but ultimately it's not working the way that it's supposed to. And then it came, church is not working the way that it's supposed to, period. Then came, of course, religion isn't working the way that it's supposed to, and it just no, we're not working. It's us. We're the problem. We're not working the things that we're supposed to work to. Religion, church, belief, whatever it is, it's your tool. It's inanimate. It has no agency. It is inactive. So it cannot be the reason why we are doing bad. So I realized, like, holy snap, we actually need to become more accountable to things that we have in our. It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me, right? It's not the God I believe in. It's not the book that I go by. It's not the religion that I have. It's not which political party I identify with. All these are labels that describe me. At the end of the day, that's it. I'm the man in the mirror, the man behind the curtain, and all, and then the man in the mask. It's me. And I think when this is just my perspective, I think when humanity kind of deals with that, we can create safer and stronger communities for people.
That's true, because even from my experience, even with we have a lot of rec centers in the community, and people will see that as, well, that's the organized community service institution. But every time I went to the rec center, there were things to do, but there was no guidance. The people that there, it was very few, and then adults that were there had no intention of even interacting or engaging the youth that came there.
I did see a lot of that.
They only would do that if a problem was being made. If someone got too rowdy, too loud, or that was the only time it's something negative going on. So there was no intention to raise the intellect or to expose to new experiences within the rec center. Just if you have this, you should be happy.
You should be happy.
Yeah.
You know, I think, and that's a good point. I think a lot of times, especially in our community, it's been the field of dreams approach, where if you build it, they will come. And so then there's no again, that's just magical thinking, which is why when I talk about superstition, I don't just talk about religious superstition. Our magical thinking goes way beyond what we believe about, gods and goons. It's also, we're getting our ways to operate in life from movies, Yeah. And so it becomes, if we build a rec center, everybody's going to come and they're going to play nice together, and then they're going to thank us for it and say this changed their lives. But the only way you can come to that type of conclusion is to actually separate yourself from the outcomes and not actually pay attention. And so a lot of things that we get, even, I used to say when I was a child, good intentions, sometimes the pathway to hell is paved with good intentions. You may intend well, but you have to, just because you have good intentions does not mean you have paid attention yet. You still have to pay attention. Good intentions don't mean you paid attention. And so, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So that gets us into rethinking outreach, right? And critically engaging the idea of improving outcomes.
Yeah, that's a good segue.
Yeah. And so, think about communities. I think secular communities have an advantage here.
Yep.
Because we don't have the chains of needing divine permission. Like I can only do this if I get a revelation, or if something.
If God says so,
has to come to me, I have to read it. In the Bible.
Pastor, you sure the Lord want us to do this? I don't know if God wants us to do this, and this is a real conversation. In a lot of churches, well, I don't think God wants us to be concerned about social justice issues. That is what some people literally say. That those are the words that come out of their mouth. That I don't know. God doesn't want me to I don't know if that. Like, oh my God, let's move on to these people.
And that's a good point, because that's holding ourselves accountable. And I think that gets lost in the church aspect.
Holding ourselves accountable to the results. Absolutely. Absolutely. To be able to say, okay, we did this food giveaway. What impact did we make on hunger? Not to say we impacted just because we did the giveaway. That is not healthy thinking, right? And that was one of the things that I realized in my own. I don't want to say not healthy thinking. There's a different sentence I want to use there, but I think y'all get me there. That's not depth of thought. You know what I'm saying?
Not thinking long term, really. Kind of just stuck on the.
Well, it's basically task based. It says, okay, our task is to give out food. Yeah. Did we give out food? Yes, we won.
Check. Yeah.
Yep. As opposed to say, well, what was our goal? Our goal was to positively impact homelessness, or to positively impact hunger.
Yeah.
And then do you have a way to measure that? If you say, well, no, I don't have a way to measure that, then you haven't put enough thought into the idea in order to implement it yet, and actually to have an outcome. And I'm not saying it's easy, but I think one of the things that I've seen churches do is just stay stuck on things that were easy to do, as opposed to utilizing their resources and the manpower to find out things that would actually help.
Again, the community, right?
Yep, absolutely.
And so that leads us to help and hope.
All right, so help and hope is one of our things. And because I don't want to pull up anything else on my computer to make this even more laggy than it is today, which it seems to have smoothed out a little bit now, so I'm hoping so. We'll see if the audio is messing up. But one of the things, help and hope was an idea that we've had, and we experimented for a while, and so I wanted to share a little bit of notes on it, to give you some things that you can think about of ways that you could make community impact. Because help and hope actually, and as a matter of fact, I can pull it up on my phone. Because all of this stuff is on my Google. It's back and forth. That's how I was kind of thinking. Boy.
Yeah. And the things with help and hope, it was interesting to see how many were willing to get involved. And that's another hurdle that you sometimes have to jump over, is actually getting people involved.
Oh, yes. Well, And I'll say that I think it's easier to get people involved when you already have the community built. If you build the community and the vision is there, then I think it's easier to get people to say, yes, I want to do this, because they're like, oh, I actually joined this to be able to do this. And so our help and hope thing, it's basically, it's a reminder to all of us that communities are stronger when we care for each other. And that it's easier to care for others as a community than it is as one-off, So when you got one person who's out there trying to, tackle something in the community, it's really hard. But when one person has a problem and you have 30 people in the community, it becomes immensely easy. So that just kind of became the mindset behind this. So to kind of give you all some ideas, I want to walk you through what our idea of help and hope is and how it works. And so it starts, we have an alpha and a beta. And not alpha male, beta male, not that, just alpha, the first one we tried, then beta, the next ones we go, and so on and so on. But in the alpha phase of this, we want to start with just simple help and hope bags, which this isn't the one we've experimented with. We've experimented with the boxes, which is exciting, and I'll tell you a little bit about that too. But help and hope bags are like real low-touch items where we can get, where we really want to be able to give away umbrellas and socks and sandals just in bags, just little bags of stuff, socks and sandals in those bags. And I want an umbrella. And the umbrella will also have a shield attachment, a pole attachment, so that the umbrella could also double as a tent if needed. Now, it is not a solution. It's something that can help. So we have help and hope bags that would give people who are not where they want to be in life. I sometimes struggle trying to find the best words to use for that as a person who's lived through it, But socks and sandals are immensely helpful, and an umbrella for the weather, the elements, not just from the rain, but also from the sun, But then we want that's kind of like the alpha phase, and then we move up. Yay! All right. And so then also baskets. That's another thing. Help and hope baskets, where we go a little further. It's more than socks and sandals. Decorative baskets on wheels was really the goal there, is to have the baskets on wheels filled with items considerate of the struggles and dignity of homeless populations. And of course you don't have anything to comic relief, Alpha and Omega. You do Big O. Oh man. Gutter mind. Indeed. The Big O is indeed called the Little Death. No, little Shakespearean stuff there. Yes. Oh yeah, I do remember someone was had got confused. Oh no, I can't remember what it was now. I lost that rabbit that quick. It'll come back. Yeah, the decorative basket is the idea of being able to, so that they don't have to carry extra stuff. Yeah. So that people who are going to,
and that's a good thing.
On wheels.
It's like some don't have a place to go. They have to go from place to place, building, and thinking about how much they actually have to carry, where they're going to put it, support it.
Absolutely. Oh man. Okay. Good. And then from the basket, moving up to boxes, which is the one we did experiment with. So we've experimented with help and hope boxes. Is that community members can nominate individuals and families in need in their local area to receive a gift box of essential items such as grocery items, clothing items, toiletries, cleaning supplies, and special request items.
Big boxes.
Right. Yes. Because the goal was to what we were what I'm looking for, piloting or testing was this idea of partnering with a Home Depot or a Lowe's to use their big boxes, like appliance-sized boxes. And the more people you have in the community who can just fill these boxes up with things for people. Because the other help and hope initiatives prior to the boxes are really for people who are on the brink of homeless. You know what I'm saying? But the help and help boxes are for people who don't look homeless, don't look like they're, I don't say look, but are not apparently homeless. They're not apparently struggling, but they could be one bad situation away from being put And so these boxes begin to be very helpful in the sense that there are families that, they can receive this big appliance-sized box of several items that allows them to reserve their cash for their bills and things of that nature. Because we all know, especially for families that have children, groceries are expensive as get out.
Yes.
Having to take care of cars and things of that nature. It's Beavis and Butthead. Oh yeah. But we want to move. So now we're in the beta phase, and that was doing actually help yard sales. So community members of the community, and this is the power of local community, but we can do this with virtual community as well. Is that those large sales? We have large sales, but no yard sales allows you members of the community to sell items that they no longer need anymore, and that allows you to create another stream of revenue to then feed and fund those Help and Hope programs.
And that goes back to just community in general.
Yes.
Then you get to engage those who are around you a little
bit. Absolutely. Man. Oh, wow. I love it. And so, and then and this, I told you, we have there's a whole evolution, or more like an escalation. It's what it is. It's an escalation service. You move there, you can elevate or escalate those yard sales into thrift stores. So the more members of your communities who have things to bring to the thrift stores, to bring to those yard sales, you can eventually start taking those things, turning them into thrift items. So then you can establish a thrift store that can become a stream of revenue to make your entire benevolent strategy, in our case, Help and Hope, sustainable. So then you're no longer completely dependent on the contributions of the community, or you're no longer completely dependent on donations anymore. But you've able to build some commercial activity into this that also builds back. But there's another thing that then also allows you to do, that now also allows you to create employment opportunities for people, which is also another way to relate to people. Yeah. Absolutely. It's another way to help those people. So you see, our idea with Help, you can take as many of those ideas as you want, or you can decide to be persuaded by those ideas to help us with them. Either way, it doesn't matter to me, as long as people are doing things that are helping people. I'm kind of happy.
So we're talking about community service.
We're talking about making social impact. And so in this case, we're walking you through one of the ideas that we have that we do, which is called Help and Hope, and the way we desire to be able to elevate those services. And so it starts with Help and Hope bags, moves to Help and Hope baskets and boxes, and which those things are typically provided for just by people who decide to, of the goodness of their heart, help whichever person is in need. But as we continue to expand that program, we like to expand it into doing yard sales and thrift stores, building those to become another stream of revenue. So not only you can build bigger boxes that you can give out to people, and actually explore stronger solutions in order to help people. So for example, the one I had earlier was just the umbrella that can be converted into a tent. That's a small, easily designable solution that can be made available to people who are temporarily. It's obviously not a solution. It's just something that can help for a while. But yeah, so in the thrift stores, also get the opportunity to take people who are down on their luck and need employment. Thrift store is low task work with high opportunity, so you can give them some room there to help people make ends meet. But then also you create revenue to expand your benevolence reach. And so like one of the things we want to do is a big truck. And then the big truck is so that then when people need things, you can actually transport those things. You know, there are people out there who can afford furniture and still can't get it.
Can't get it.
Yeah, because they can't afford to transport the furniture. Yeah. You know, and it goes deeper than that. It's all types of things that big truck come in handy for when it comes to outreach. You know, it still happens enough to be a concern where there are house fires and things of that nature, and then people literally have to start all the way over again. And in that case, a box just isn't going to get it.
Or even with weather crisis, remember at one point we were helping
Yes.
gather those big water,
The big water jugs.
yeah,
Absolutely.
being able to transport that even further
Yes.
to those in need. So
I definitely wouldn't mind there being a second alternative to the Salvation Army, given that they've come under a bit of scrutiny. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. 100% agree. And I am of the adage, anything they can do, we can do better. And I believe it. And then and then we get to the omega part of the phase of help and hope, which means at that moment we've done a lot of great work. When we do the comments, we'll do them from your computer now, because I think that was leading to the lag too. And so once you get kind of some service, some thrift store, if you can get you don't have to be some, it can just be one, but you get you a good thrift store started, supported by your community members. You can eventually start moving from just doing boxes and baskets and bags to actually establishing a service center, or more than what I did, or more than or more than we can do just service center, where that way you can have a fully stocked food pantry. You can have a clothing pantry. You can have shelter in a service center. You can provide voucher assistance for bills and things of that nature. You can also provide dine-in luncheons there for your homeless populations. And it's better, let me say this differently, not for your homeless populations, for your hungry populations. And build it. And this is just a pet peeve of mine. A lot of organizations seem very, very I want to be careful. There are a lot of organizations who are doing things. Yeah, clothing closet, right? Absolutely, because there are people out there who need clothes. And the thing that I would encourage you to do, if you're doing this and you say, I'm either going to do this with y'all or I'm doing this separate, the thing that I'd encourage you to do is pay attention to the dignity of people. Because a lot of times, the idea is we're doing this for homeless people. So we don't make any investment in painting the walls. We don't make any investment of making this place look decent. And so instead, we're doing this for people. And so the same consideration we were doing this for any other people group, I would encourage us to put that same type of consideration into it. I think that's one of the ways that we can reduce, recidivism may not be the right word. Yes. Yes.
House people. Yeah.
Yes. The practicality is daunting, and that's why you need. And see, this is, and that's why I'm glad you were able to be here to be a part of this conversation, because these are the things that I'm trying to help people think through. And these are some of these are areas that I specialize in. Strategy has always been really important to me, and sustainability has always been really important to me, which means I don't want to just do something that's going to help people temporarily and then fall apart and can't help nobody, And so, yes, it's very important. Yes, absolutely. And so we definitely want to get those service centers started, and and dine-in lunch for them, so that anybody who's hungry, so that you may have people who are not homeless but can't afford to feed themselves on a regular basis. And then I'll even take it a step further. You may have some people who could just benefit from not having to buy lunch.
Yeah.
Yeah, now if we can just get billionaires pay their fair share of taxes, which that is a whole other conversation. But even that does have some nuances to it that I think don't actually always get brought into the conversations. I don't know if billionaires are ever going to be anybody's saviors, and sometimes I do still think that comes from somewhat of our need for saviors. But we have to deal with our own. That's it. And we can, and that's the thing. Like, we can.
Actually, we'll work together.
That's right? It. Like, oh my goodness! If we just work together intentionally, you'd be surprised about how much we can get done. But I've seen it done, over and over again. I've seen a family have a house built for them in 3 weeks. just off of volunteers.
Yeah.
That's the power of volunteering, you know. And so that's beautiful. It just makes me And I think it's the last. Oh nope, it's not even the last. So we got 2 more escalations for our Help and Hope idea, and that is to eventually also have Help and Hope houses, and these are large. Yeah, something popped up. These idea would be to have large warehouse facilities retrofitted into micro communities to temporarily house individuals and families impacted by housing deprivation. Income earners will be charged a percentage of their income in lieu of rent and utilities, and non-income earners will enroll in a work-study program. Help and Hope House residents are accepted into the program for whatever periods of times we can figure out that are practical. Yeah, but see, I hear that, but that's when you say fair share, I don't even know what that means. Like, right? Because I don't know if you've looked at the IRS tax code, but the more money you make, the higher you are taxed at. So I think a lot of that is polarity that people have created these divides between the haves and the have-nots. And I can be honest with you, no billionaire stole anything from me. The situation that I'm in is because of generations of my family making bad decisions. Now, I'm not saying that there are not billionaires out there not doing what they're supposed to do. Yes, and that is so true. But I do think it's probably more productive of us to see what we can do about our situations if they're not going to, you know. Because then that's not just billionaires, that's your government that hasn't done that. That's your government that makes that possible. And I'm not saying that to blame the government. I'm saying, remember, the government is of the people, by the people, for the people. So again, I don't find it helpful to say that there are these people doing this to us and these people are doing this to us, when instead we really could just focus on how can we help ourselves? How can we help our people? And if they're not doing what they're supposed to do, how can we get in a position to fix that? Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's absolutely. But there's the answer again. That's the government. So that means that and this is something that I often deal with a lot, because we do this in this country where we point fingers, and I'm like, it's all of us. That's kind of how democracy works. So if there's something that has happened, we have either allowed it to happen or we have participated in it happening. Every billionaire, especially in this country, is only in position because we keep supporting them. And so we'll talk about, we'll still buy the iPhone, or we'll still can't wait to have the Tesla. And so, and it's because at the end of the day, many of us have become very consumeristic, and I'm not saying that in a bad way, but we can sit here on the stream and say it'll all be better if the billionaires pay their fair share. Which one of us has the abilities to make the billionaire pay their fair share? And how do you define fair share? Because you can't, these things are based off of economic complexities that are not introduced into these type of conversations, which is, at the end of the day, you end up talking about something that other people have or don't have, as opposed to actually wrestling with the solutions to the problem. Yep, we're too comfortable passing the buck. I'd much rather, and maybe that's some of that Booker T. Washington in me, but I'd much rather let's see what we can do instead of focusing on what we could do if other people did their part. Let's just go ahead and kind of see that they're not doing it, and let's see what we can do to help ourselves and help each other, and maybe they'll learn something from us.
Yeah,
it is the bad situation for sure. Yeah. And ended up not doing anything. Absolutely. That's what has to stop, And that's why we do this. We do this to say, no, we can build community. We can solve our problems. Yeah. If there are always going to be people who are not going to do what's best and who are not going to do what's right. And if you make your condition about what they're doing, you will never improve your condition. We'll stay stuck. Absolutely. But yeah, I absolutely agree. Alyssa, it is a both and situation. And so, and again, and that's why I'm sharing some of these things, because these are things that we can do. It doesn't take much to get a community together to buy an old warehouse and then retrofit it and build some micro communities into it. There it is. That's a good one right there. Come on.
Back on us.
Yep. There it is. We don't do enough. It went off. We don't do enough to hold our elected representatives accountable, but also a lot of people aren't pushing for grassroots solutions, which i.e. community. So if you become a part of community, if you build community and you make that a part of your goal, these are ways we can implement things. Like your community can be a part of grassroots solutions, grassroots implementation. Because here's, one of the biggest lies, I think, I won't say lie, I'll just say misinformation that gets pushed in a lot of our communities is that it's your individual vote that has power. Right. And it's like, no, that's not how that works. I hate to tell you that. It's these collective votes. It's those community votes, because it's not even the vote. The vote should be representative of what you are willing to be actively supportive of, what you are willing to actively contribute to. If you're voting, you're not actively supporting these ideas and not actively being a part of these programs. Yes, in many ways, you are throwing your vote away.
And that's where it hinders us, because you don't even know what bills are being put up for suggestion, what laws are being implemented. And so when we interact or encounter with things like such as the law or police or any other things, we're kind of lost in the sauce. Right?
Yep.
We don't have too much backing because we're unaware.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It does. It's like and that's what community becomes a great doorway for. It's something that helps you really get active and get involved and becoming a part of it. It is frustrating. Yeah. It is frustrating that should happen, doesn't happen, and then you hear that's because this government doesn't have enough money or whatever. Well, I think that's stuff right there. That's stuff that I think is not accurate. I think those are sound bites that people put out there. But this is what I'd encourage you to do, Dior. Study economics. Don't just listen to the sound bites. But again, net worth is not what a lot of people think it is. Jeff Bezos' net worth is partly based off of Amazon, which he only earns a small percentage of that. But then again, even us talking about it, how does that actually help our communities? I don't know Jeff as a person at all, and I can't believe that just because I read something on the internet is going to give me any insight into who he is as a person. So I like to be very careful with stuff like that, because it seems to me as humans, we're always looking for reasons to dehumanize another human that has a different life than us. And in many ways, that it's just not very helpful that I can see. But yes, I would suggest getting involved with actually studying economics and understanding how the economics of this country works, so then we can help people actually come up with some solid solutions. Because right now, there are dishonest people who are taking advantage of what we don't know. They are pitting us against each other. They're telling us this person is the reason for this and this person is the reason for this, because they're taking advantage of systems that we don't understand. The truth of the matter is, this is very complicated. There are no easy answers. There are no easy solutions. People are very complicated. And if you ever want to see that, invite 25 people out to eat at one restaurant and see how hard it is for them to figure out what they want to eat, or just figure out what restaurant they want to eat at. And so there's so many complexities and nuances here that I often try to urge people. I often deal with this spectrum of control, and even control itself is an illusion. The spectrum of control, the healthiest place you can live in your life is within your spectrum of control. What are the things that I can control? What are the things that I can influence? And how can I increase my ability to influence those things? And so if it really bothers you that these billionaires are not paying their fair share, get involved with economics, get involved with politics, so that you can make that change. And those things are easy to do. That's right. It is overwhelming. It is overwhelming. I think one of the hardest lessons I've learned in life is that there's really nothing easy out here. There, anything worth doing is gonna, as of now, and that's just because of entropy. Entropy it's gonna pull so much out of you. It's gonna cause you to have to scale up and skill up in ways that you weren't really, really ready for. But I have all the faith in the world in you. I believe that humans are capable of doing amazing things. But we need help getting focused on our own capacity to impact those things.
That's one of the words that I love to use a lot, even in our household, even at work, is capacity.
Capacity.
We have capacity to do what needs to be done, but we have to give ourselves the tools to do it.
Absolutely.
Because we haven't been good with the tools. Right?
Yeah. Like at least not in our community. Like I've seen the communities that we've been part of. When we say our community, we're not talking about a blanket statement on the Black community, but just the communities that we've been part of. That's what we're talking about there. But it's definitely been I've definitely seen people sit back and not make the most out of what they can do. And the sad thing about that is I'm not even just talking about for your personal success in life, because I mean that's important too. But it's like if you really never explore your capacity, you have no idea how many lives you can impact. And then there are way too many people who really treat themselves like they're just a blade of grass. And I'm like, no, human capacity. I want us to get away from this from this idea of heroes and legends and saviors, because I think that has robbed us of a greater truth, and that is that any one thing that any one individual can do, another individual can do. Even if they have to make adjustments, even if they have to, do different types of accommodations. Now, and I balance that by saying, though, but we should always be very mindful of when barriers have been set in place to keep people from that.
Yeah.
But I balance that by saying this is the only way I've been able to pull my life out of the gutter. At some point, you got to say, fuck everybody else's barriers.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, like at some point, like nobody else is going to be the reason why I don't have the life I want to have. That's just not going to happen. Not for me. That's good conversation. And then just the last part for that Help and Hope strategy was to actually build the Help and Hope Association. So then you take all of your participating programs and you have them working together. Now I actually have a buttload of more notes that I want to hit on that, but I don't want to have to pull it up on the screen because I also wanted to share some things about absolutely acknowledging what you cannot do. Well, I literally have to ask what you mean when we say you cannot do. Because I don't know of anything that one person can do that another person cannot do. So now there may be things that you outside of extreme disability or anything like that. But so now if you're talking about those type of limitations, then absolutely fine. But I am a little careful with that because capacity is something that we can pretty much all do. Activism is generally a dirty road. Yeah, I've seen that too. But see, and that kind of takes us back to the point earlier. Do you see how different we are? And that's the point of creating room for everybody's differences. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But I do love that. But I would say cannot do. I don't know how many things. I think there's been way too much cannot do. I think a lot of the things people think they cannot do, they actually can do. I know the things that people probably should not do. I know there are things that are probably not beneficial for people to do. And those things, there's things probably not beneficial for you to do. Like you probably don't drive yourself crazy doing things. And so benefit, absolutely. Capacity, I don't think it's healthy for people to actually look at themselves and say, "Oh, I can't do that," because then my question would be, "How did you come to that conclusion?" How did you come to that viewpoint? because I am a humanist and I am progressive thinking and people centric in that capacity, that's typically what I lean to. Now I do have quite a few friends who would look at me the other way because I am very hyper productive, and their approach to life is very much different. It's not hyper productive. It's the opposite.
Is that where the soft life?
Life. I don't know. I don't know. I have seen that more. I have seen that a lot. I've seen that more so about like, husband and wife. You know, I want my wife, my husband to give me a soft life, or I want my wife to give me a soft life.
But maybe that's still. I look at it as another way of can do. Right?
Well, it's like it's a personal admission, and again, and there I want to can do. It's a personal admission that I don't want to have to deal with challenge. I don't want to have to deal with conflict. I don't want to have to deal with tension. I just want things to be easy. And for people who do have that worldview, I absolutely respect having that worldview, and I'd love to contribute to it in whatever way I can. My biggest question would be, what evidence do you have for that worldview? Who has that life? And a lot of times, that has come from our misestimation and misjudgment of other people. We've looked at somebody else's life and assumed that their life is easy because it's different. Yeah. And so, like, now you show me someone who's successfully built an easy life, and you have evidence that this life is easy. How subjective is easy? This is a very subjective quality, man. And yes, we also have to be willing to be inconvenienced. It takes that. Because I actually have a course on this because we were kind of fighting against the tides of entropy. Well, I mean, if you know your limits before you start pushing them, how do you know your limits? So that seems to be ignoring the scientific process. You don't know your limits until you push it. That's the only way you know your limits.
Experience in the athletic training world.
Yeah, I think I clicked it. I clicked it. I'm sorry. But you are right though. You should know your limits, and you can put a list back up because I didn't get to read it. You should know your limits, but I think the way you know your limits is by exploring those boundaries. If you're standing off those boundaries, saying I can't do that, then you actually don't know your limits. You've assumed them. I need to remember it's unfair for me to try to shoulder the responsibility for certain things, and then that goes to beneficial. Is it beneficial for me? Is it beneficial for me to do this? And when I say benefit, like there's certain things that I do that nobody else will do, and it's because if nobody else will do them, they won't get done. And then if they're not done, has that benefited me? And then can I just go blame them that my life now doesn't have what it was supposed to have because they didn't do what I wanted to do? Yeah, I get that. Yep. That's the difference, because that's not about your capacity. That's about recognizing what's beneficial for me. Yeah. You know, it's like I am capable. At this moment, I am capable of taking all the money in my bank account and giving it away. Right. I am capable of doing that, which means that doesn't speak to my capacity. I can do it. I can do that. I don't do that because it wouldn't be beneficial. It would not be beneficial to my family. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. All right, so that I did have some other notes for the
getting into global outreach.
Yeah, the global outreach, and that is because community for me, and again, these are not right or wrong rules. They're things for you to think about as you're experimenting with building community, right? And think about, do you want your community to have a global impact? Do you want to be involved in global causes, or is it just local causes? And nobody can use that, but you and your team. Nobody, don't let anybody guilt you into being anything other than what you feel like your community should be. And if you notice, that kind of nobody else can guilt me into what I'm kind of thinking, because I put plenty of thought into this, and I no longer live in this world where there's one person who controls everything. Yeah. Or you know what I'm saying? So when other people say, "Ooh, I would do this, I would do it this way," and I would be like, "Oh, go do it that way." That would be a great idea. Which is why even this conversation, that's been one of the things that I do try to kind of keep hitting, is that this isn't, as much as this is in many ways an invitation for you to, check us out, do some things with us. It's also just an invitation for you to start having this conversation with yourself, some people around you, and some others to be interested in doing these things and start making impact, right where you are.
Right where you are.
Absolutely. And so I know for us, global cause is our major part, because DODD World Group, if you visit our website, that's our nonprofit. It's not necessarily community based, but our goal in that is to build cultivate a global hub of authentic leadership, so that we can talk through and create think tanks around global causes, which we have done some work in. I think I've talked about the Build Africa program with you guys before, which we ran for a few months, almost like a full semester, where we were able to help students in where were they at? Ghana, in Accra. In Ghana, actually earn income by working remotely in U.S. as we build sponsorship. So income inequalities and things of that nature. I know for us, for the ODD World Group, the big things were education, entertainment, and economics. My goal in this world is to do everything I can to help people situate better economically and help lift people up all the way around. What we've been able to do with our own lives has been borderline miraculous. And if you would have told me 15 years ago that I'd be where I am today, I would have told you it would have been nothing more than a miracle. And that's because that's how limited my thinking was back then. I'm not saying everybody's thinking is like that, who's attached to superstition, but mine definitely was. I believed it would only. I believed my whole life was controlled by external factors.
And it kind of, sometimes people get stuck in it. This is what God has for me, then I guess I got to deal with it. And so you get the urge to do more, or go for more, or learn more,
Yep. And you don't even get to meet other people who are doing different things, but you can actually see possibilities. Say, oh no, I didn't even know there was an option. I know a lot of people that I'm able to mentor and help. A lot of them believe that they didn't have options before they had actually ever looked for options.
Remember, you used to talk about getting a better view.
Getting a better view. That's right. That's right. That's how I've treated every job I've had. I want a better view because I want to understand how this thing operates. And that's why I talk so much. That's why I have so many opinions. And I would never say that all my opinions are right. I don't even know what that means, what it would mean to have all of your opinions be right. But I've done a lot in my life to make sure that I can get in a good seat to see, because I'm very curious. I'm nosy in that way. That kind of brings us to our end. I'm just scrolling through my notes, making sure that we haven't skipped over anything.
There's been some good points mentioned, just going over digital presence, digital spaces, the type of digital spaces, how does that lead to social impact? And we talked about the third place. So it's some good nuggets we can take, or you all can take and talk through and work through, and how can we adjust and implement, moving forward.
Yep. And I'd encourage each of you to also check out the first episode we did, Sunday Sessions, because we do highlight some things in there that'll give you a better understanding of how we approach things and why we approach things the way that we do. I do come off strong at times, and I hope that doesn't rub anybody the wrong way. But I do like to be clear in our designations, because I'm people centric, and so I'm for people. But also one of our values is it's always sound, to be as sound as possible. And I've lived my life a part of environments that were not sound. It was just whatever is popular. Let's say that and let's everybody agree to it. And so I don't really do that. If there's something If there's some nuance to it, I'll point that out, and I hope that don't rub y'all the wrong way too much. But I do like to highlight those complexities. Never believing that anybody is malintent. And I take that from Broadpath. You kind of a good way to engage with other people is to just assume other people's highest intentions until they've given you any reason not to. You know, don't ignore reasons. But if people haven't given you a reason not to, then you assume their highest intentions in conversations. And then I like to just kind of add my little 2 cents because I've seen some things, but then I always love that what we have in this growing community is that people are always adding theirs in, and there's some helpful stuff that comes through these chats.
And that's what's good about it, talking it through, working it through.
Yes,
like what's in my mind, I need to dump it. Is this right? Or
it's right. I mean, that's exactly how it works too. I think we've gotten so stuck. No, I hate it. We've gotten so stuck and feeling like we have to agree. And again, this is why that episode 1 of our Sunday sessions is so important here. It's like disagreement doesn't have to lead to disconnection. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But it's because we've been so afraid of agreement that we've been so afraid of disagreement that in many cases we've not been able to have the conversations we need to have to come to really good solutions for the things that we want to see in the world. So we'll wrap it up here. Next week's conversations, which will be a little different. We're going to talk about community logistics, right? So we'll talk a little bit about funding and sustainability, which is something that Mr. Difficult kind of mentioned. And I think on some of these Sunday sessions, we might start bringing some other people in on live with us, so that we can really explore these things. But we'll talk about funding, sustainability, legal and ethical foundations, which I know this doesn't sound exciting, but this is like, in my mind, this is very important. This is one of the places that a lot of communities drop the balls. Don't drop the balls. That's not the saying, is it? That's something different. But the last, yeah. So, but legal and ethical foundations, not just with communities, churches. That's not something you want to be talking about after the fact. That's a conversation you want to get ahead of. Like, where do we stand? How do we ensure that we are ethically? Yes, thank you. That we are ethically engaging each other. That we're not creating a situation where one person can monopolize everything. We're not creating a situation where profit can be going to certain individuals unless you're going to organize as a corporation, which you do have that option. It's not an option that I take, but you do have that option. Who didn't cross their T's? Yes, and that is awesome. That is freaking awesome. See, that's community right there. Community conversations creates where you learn something about people that you wouldn't have ever known if you were just discussing the subject itself, and that's being able to have that interest in people. And the last part of that leg will be measurement and adaptation. So how do you measure what you're doing? How do you measure success? Again, I've mentioned this before. That is so very important. Because what I mean there, I'm not talking about like competitive. Yeah, we succeeded, we won. I mean, are we actually doing what we said we were doing? We said we wanted to create a place that's inclusive. Are we succeeding in this being inclusive? That's it. That's the only, otherwise you run the risk of when someone comes to you and say, hey, I felt, discriminated against, or I felt this or that, you'd be tempted to say, oh, well, we don't do that here. So no, that didn't happen. And leave it at that. And that's what happens in a lot of organizations. Yes, absolutely. Hindsight land, not a good place. Not a good place. Everything is so crystal clear there, but yet so far away to be relevant. You're absolutely right, man. And then the last conversation of this series, which won't be next week, but the week after that, we're going to talk about how to create a supportive community. So that we're just going to be talking about a hierarchy of needs. So in a lot of these conversations, in conversation 1, we talked about basics. So in that, we were really talking about organization basics. So the importance of having your understanding some type of vision, some type of mission, some type of value, some type of purpose, and understand how to build that into your framework. And then last week we went a little bit more into the framework aspect. That last conversation of this series, we're going to solely be talking about making sure that community is supportive, and we'll kind of be mirroring Maslow's hierarchy of needs to have that conversation. And so that one, like the past three, these conversations, including next week's, will also be kind of like this, but that last conversation will be more open form because we'll just be talking about those needs. And so, like, these conversations have had about 6 to 7 pages of notes. Yeah. That one will likely have 1 page of notes with 5 bullet points on it. And so that we can actually just kind of sit back, relax, and flow in that conversation. Because that's how we're going to close out this particular series. Now, we won't be closing out Sunday sessions there, but just this particular series. And we'll be starting our second series, which is going to be fun. I think we're going to name that one Please Don't Stop the Music.
Please don't stop it. And we got to have the
music. We got to have the music, right?
Yeah.
Because really in that series, we're going to take a different approach where we're going to talk about not community building, but just growing personally. And so we're going to have a lot of fun with that. But yeah, thank you all for joining us for this week of Sunday sessions. Yes. Consider joining us again next week and perhaps bringing a friend. You know, like, why not? And then, of course, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the alert notification bell. Consider joining our community, which we're going to create ways to make that a little easier for you. Right now, you can join on Patreon and you can join on YouTube. And on both of those, we do have free memberships available because community is important to us, and we don't want to presume anybody's financial status. So if you want to be a part of our community, we're not necessarily going to put a dollar barrier there for you. And then we're also creating ways that you can join through our website and like that as well. And also, if you want to volunteer, I'm going to create some more volunteer forms as well, so we can have some more things. If you want to be a part of actually helping us think through building community, you want to be a part of this idea of I guess kind of like a core team member, where you're actually helping us be responsible for making this thing happen, then we'd love to hear from you. If you want to be responsible for helping manage either our YouTube membership or Patreon or Discord, please holler at us. You can do that on our website. But if you just want to help in any way that I haven't mentioned, or any way that you think that I may not have thought about, maybe there's something you think that our community vision is lacking, but you think it would gel perfectly with what we're wanting to do, and instead of doing to create something separate, you'd like to explore possibly doing those things together, I'd love to hear all of those things, because at the end of the day, and y'all probably going to hear me say it until you're tired of me saying it, but my goal is not to build a cult of personality around myself or around my wife, but it's actually to sit at the table with a group of people who are passionate about, world change and the advancement of people, the advancement of our species, the uplifting of our people, that people have the resources they need when they need them. And I think we can do that when we're willing to do it together. We don't need anybody to be a big I or a little you or any of those things. We just need people to have responsibilities that they can be really responsible for. And those don't have to be like commended. We could really just get to know each other and realize, hey, this responsibility thing that this community needs is actually something that perfectly aligns with who you are, just kind of naturally. Would you like to do that?
And you're available.
And you're, and so I did want to hit that. Also, we have merch. I never want to not forget the merch. Check out the merch if you're looking for merch. If you're enjoying the conversations, let us know in the comments. If you're interested in being a member of our little community experiment, email us, fill out a volunteer form on our website. And do you have any last words before we roll up?
No, just thank you for tuning in. Be sure to catch Skeptic Haven
this
week when you can. Also, you on last week with
Neil.
Yeah. If you haven't watched that, was good. They did an after party, which is
cool. Did an after party. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I know we highlighted it a little bit. I shouldn't have touched the screen at all. Yeah. I know we highlighted it a little bit last week. Darn it, it's going to make me mad now. But I know we highlighted it a little bit last week. That's another great way that you can maximize digital space to make your community growth. but Neil is doing an excellent job of it. And so if you have not supported Neil's 604 Atheist channel, man, I encourage you to do so. But I guess with that being said, man, thank you all for joining us today. Until next time, keep rising, stay progressive, and stay beautiful.